In this video, we're going to do an ILS approach in the Carenado PA-44. This is the ILS runway 14 into Indianapolis. Localizer is 110.5. Final approach course is 140. The glide slope intercept altitude is 2,400. We're going to follow that down to our decision height of 996 feet, which is 200 feet above ground level. Minimum visibility is 1,800 RVR. You'll see the chart says 2,400 feet, but there is a note. It says 1,800 RVR with flight director or autopilot. We have both. To set this approach up, the first thing I'm going to do is select the procedure in the GPS. This will be for reference only, but it will still show us the final approach course on the GPS map. We'll select ILS 14. We're going to go ahead and activate this. Then after it's activated, hold down the clear button for 3 seconds. That'll bring back the map. And if we zoom out, we can see the final approach course we've actually taken off from an airport nearby. And it is hard to see, but I've got something that's going to help us see a lot better to do this approach. What's the need to tune the localizer on nav 1? 110.5 is the frequency. And we'll also select 110.5 in nav 2. Nav 2 uses this VOR indicator. You cannot use the autopilot with this airplane with this VOR indicator, but you can use it on nav 1. When doing an ILS approach, press the CDI button. Make sure you're in VLOC, not GPS. We're on a 30-degree intercept angle approximately. Approach mode is armed. When ATC tells you cleared for the approach, that's when you press the approach button. We are outside Arcade. The altitude is 2,400. Once we cross Arcade, we're going to intercept the glide slope. We're going to take that down to 996 feet. We did overshoot the final approach course just a little bit, but we caught it and the airplane is turning back and correcting to find the final approach course. You can't see them, but I do have the first notch of flaps selected. I'm going to hold 90 knots minimum all the way down until the landing is assured. As we approach the glide slope intercept altitude, I'm going to go ahead and move the props all the way forward. The next thing we're looking for is movement on the glide slope indicator. When we're 1 dot below the glide slope, we can select flaps, second notch, then gear down, and then full flaps by the time we intercept the glide slope. Because when we're doing an ILS approach, once we've intercepted the glide slope, we don't want to be changing configuration. All we're doing is monitoring the airplane and flying it down to the decision height. You can hear that buzzer. We just have too much flaps in and the gear's not down. Once the gear comes down, that buzzer will quit. The other thing that makes the gear warning horn go off is low throttle setting. And when I say you have too much flaps, that just means you're the second notch or greater with the gear up. That will make the gear warning horn sound. We've now intercepted the glide slope. The next thing that's going to happen, we're going to get to 996 feet and we're going to look up. At that point, one of 3 things will happen. We'll have the runway in sight, we'll continue and land. We'll have the approach lights in sight and we'll continue, in which case we can go down to 100 feet above touchdown zone elevation. And by that point, if we see the runway environment, then we can land. Or the third option, we get to the decision height, we don't see the runway, we don't see the runway lights, then we have to go missed and execute the missed approach procedure, which is here. And if we did that, we would climb to 3,000 feet outbound on their Brickyard VOR 136 radial to Osmo intersection and hold. And as you look at the altimeter, we're just inside of 1,000 feet to our minimums. Another thing to make flying a little bit easier, when you're doing an ILS approach, going down the glide slope, knowing what your power setting is going to be to give you a particular airspeed and rate of descent. So this situation, the manifold pressure is 17 inches. I was moving it plus or minus 1 inch, but 17 inches is a very good starting point to give you 90 knots. I'm using 90 knots because it's above VYSE or blue line. It's generally not a good idea to go below blue line until the landing's assured in a multi-engine airplane. Blue line or VYSE gives us the best single engine rate of climb performance. So in this situation, we're above blue line. If we lost an engine, we know what the weather is, and we can see the runway. I would continue. I would not try to execute a missed approach procedure on one engine. And now we're coming up on 200 feet to minimums. $100. And there's minimums, runways in sight, land. Don't go away yet, there's more. That's not it. Here it is. Remember to load the approach, tune your navs, press the CDI button so it says VLOC and not GPS, and enter the final approach course in the HSI. And one other thing to throw out, you don't have to put the localizer frequency in the number 2 nav, but if for any reason your number 1 radio or your HSI fails, you have it backed up, ready to go. And having that ready to go is a lot easier than doing a missed approach and coming around and trying it again. Thank you for watching. And if you find these videos useful, please click the subscribe button.